Thank you, Jim. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Well, here we are again on a beautiful day, standing up for the kind of society that we want and we need. On and off since, well, at least 2002, First Call, BC Child and Youth Advocacy Coalition, and all of our partners, and many of you here in the audience today, have been rallying against cuts to the social services and the programs that should be in place to support children and families and youth in this province. We've joined with others in the BC Poverty Reduction Coalition and now with the Coalition to Build a Better BC to make sure the rights and well-being of our children and our youth and of course their families are included as priorities in the recommendations and demands we make to government. We want the promises that BC made when they signed the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child decades ago. We want those kept. And yet the reality is that we have the highest child poverty rate and have had for 6 years, the highest in the country, despite the fact that those numbers, when those numbers were compiled in 2007, that was the good economic times. So we know it's worse now. And the reality is that this is a promise broken to every single child living in the crisis that is poverty. And that the reality, this is a promise that is broken to the 1/3 of food bank recipients who are children. And that reality is a promise broken to every family who's trying to make ends meet on income assistance rates that are 40% or 50% below the poverty line. And now we're in an economic recession. Maybe we're coming out, we'll see. Not for a lot of people. A time when many parents are still losing their jobs. And when the need for a strong social safety net is more urgent than ever. And what is government doing? What are they doing? What they're doing is cutting more jobs directly from government services and cutting funding to the community-based services that offer critical supports to families and children in distress. We're being told we can't afford to properly fund our children's education. We're being told we can't afford to continue to invest in our young children's health and well-being, for example, through the Success by 6 partnership funding. Anyone with an ounce of sense knows that these kinds of cuts will not save money. When you cut services and social investments that impact the most vulnerable people, the most vulnerable children and youth, the most vulnerable seniors, when you push people into crisis and despair, you can be sure that you will in fact increase costs for all of us in healthcare, in education, in the justice system, and in lost potential and productivity often over a lifetime. So this is not a business-savvy government. This is a government that doesn't know how to run a society with a long-term view. When we've come together in this coalition now to tell Premier Campbell and his government that we want the punishment of poor children and families in B to stop now. We want the punishment of single mothers to stop now. We want the erosion of all of our services to stop now. We want government to stop increasing inequality in this province through cuts to services, rising fees, and tax policies that give more to the wealthy than to the poor. Friends, children are only young once. They cannot wait for their needs to be met in some future year. And they shouldn't have to wait. Something is seriously wrong with government priorities when they can spend billions of dollars on the Olympics, but school boards are forced to lay off teachers and close schools. When they can spend enormous sums of tax revenue on convention centers but can't find the money for children's playgrounds, youth addiction services, or environmental protection and stewardship. British Columbians here today and all across this province want a healthier society for us all. We want to protect and preserve our natural environment for future generations. We value a vibrant cultural and artistic life that everyone can participate in and enjoy. We value social justice for First Peoples, for differently abled peoples, for newcomers, for everyone. This is the vision we hold for the society we want to raise our children in and we want to grow old in. We can move towards this vision instead of away from it. By coming together in support of these values today and in the future, we can step off this divisive, selfish, and destructive path that has been promoted, where it's every individual for his or herself, and too many are left behind. We can afford the more inclusive and compassionate society we want. It is our job to work together to find and lead the way. Let's do it for ourselves. Let's do it for our children. Thank you very much.